So guys, we're coming up on the 30th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog, and that's an amazing milestone. And throughout the years, our blue blur of a friend has certainly experienced his ups and downs, from his first few adventures in the first 3 Sonic the Hedgehog games, to some of his most action-packed 3D adventures, to some of the more questionable outings he's had more recently. Remember that one time Shadow had a gun? It's safe to say that Sonic has given us some absolute classics, but consistency has never really been his forte. In honor of the Hedgehog's 30th anniversary, I've decided to hop in my time machine and go back and experience some of his more noteworthy outings. Today, we're taking a stop in 2005 and starting things off with a collection of some of Sonic's more unique appearances, Sonic Gems Collection for the Nintendo GameCube. Sonic Gems Collection is a compilation of 9 classic Sonic titles and 6 unlockable Sega Genesis titles, but only 3 of those games are really used as the main selling point of the game: Sonic CD, Sonic R, and Sonic the Fighters. At the time of Gems Collection's release, these 3 main games were all extremely rare, and relatively few people had ever played them. So not only was Sega selling a box of nostalgia to the folks who had already experienced these games, but they were essentially selling 3 brand new experiences in one package. Let's talk about the actual games themselves, starting with probably the most desirable game of the collection, Sonic CD. Sonic CD, while people generally now have many more ways to play this game, was especially elusive at the time of Sonic Gems Collection's release. This is because the game was originally released for the Sega CD, which was an add-on accessory for the original Sega Genesis that allowed for larger games to be played on the system. While it may sound like a novel, exciting concept for the time, it only sold a mere 2.24 million units worldwide, and thus Sega discontinued production of the product. On its release date in 1991, the system sold for $299, which, if you adjust for inflation, would be like pricing a system at $572.51 today. No wonder it didn't sell. Less households with a Sega CD meant less households with a way to play the 1993 release of Sonic CD, making the game that much more elusive. So when the game came to Sonic Gems Collection, all those folks who missed out on it the first time because their mom wouldn't buy them a Sega CD could finally rejoice and find out exactly what it was their rich friends were bragging about playing at school all those years ago. And I wonder if those people were disappointed to find out that it was just another carbon copy of the original Sonic the Hedgehog game. Okay, maybe it's unfair to call it a carbon copy, but it does mostly copy the winning formula from the original games, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Everyone is always happy to speed through the exciting worlds, take on the challenging bosses, listen to the nostalgic soundtracks, and get crushed between 2 moving platforms. For all the familiarities we experience in this game, there is one major mechanic in this game that distinguishes it from its Genesis counterparts. Rather than collecting Chaos Emeralds in this game, we are tasked with collecting the Time Stones. And yes, that means there is no more Super Sonic in this game, but the narrative trade-off is a really cool time traveling feature. Every level has these different hidden checkpoints that are labeled as past, future, and future past. If you pass by one of these checkpoints at a fast enough speed, you time travel to another unique version of the level. The versions of the levels you complete also affect the ending of the story you experience. But what makes this feature really cool gameplay-wise is the fact that this essentially means that there are 5 unique versions of every single level in the game. Each version will have a different aesthetic look and feel, it might have different enemy layouts, and different paths might be accessible in one version that are not available in any of the others. The fact that there are so many levels packaged into this game is probably why they had to run it on the Sega CD that no one had, and not just the regular Sega Genesis. Because on the surface, this game looks and plays just like its Genesis counterparts, but the amount of information stored in each individual level due to the time travel mechanic is what makes this game too big to run on the Genesis alone. When you first boot the game up, you're greeted by that familiar title screen with Sonic sassily waving his finger at you like the little devil that he is. You can press start and dive right into it, or wait a few seconds to be greeted by a really cool 1990s animation of Sonic doing his thing and wrecking robots and running through loops. Watching it in 2020 is nostalgic, it's exciting, and it's generally just a refreshing experience to see how effective the simplicity of this animation can be when you compare it back to some of the more awkward full-scale cutscenes from the modern Sonic games. Another cool thing about Sonic CD is that it's the first appearance of Metal Sonic, and honestly, who doesn't love Metal Sonic? Moving away from Sonic CD and into one of the weirdest Sonic games ever created, the 1997 release Sonic R. Sonic R is a unique game in that it is a racing game, but all of the racing takes place primarily on foot, with only 2 characters, Amy and Dr. Eggman, who have their own vehicles because they would get absolutely smoked racing on foot. There are 5 unique racetracks in this Grand Prix that I would also describe as being levels, reminiscent of those in 3D platforming games. For the time that this game was released, these courses were all extremely good looking. Each course has quite a few possible routes you can take to complete them. Just look at the course maps and you can see that there really is no uniform way to complete each race. Each race also has its own slate of collectibles, and successfully collecting them is how you unlock characters. There are 2 Chaos Emeralds per race and 5 character tokens per race. This adds a nice challenge to completing the game outside of just having to win all the races in the Grand Prix. This task is particularly difficult because in order to retain the items you collect in the races, you actually have to collect them from their off-the-beaten-path locations and then still finish the race in first place. It's very doable after a few tries since you memorize where on the course each item is and you can sort of figure out the most efficient route to succeed. But good luck getting these right within the first few tries. Collecting all the Chaos Emeralds in the game is how you unlock Super Sonic as a playable character, who is basically impossible to lose as and impossible to defeat as a CPU. In my opinion, the 5 character tokens on each course are harder to collect than the Chaos Emeralds themselves. This is because you have to get all 5 of them in one run of the race. Successfully doing so gives you the chance to race against the course's hidden character, and then if you defeat them, you unlock them. Speaking of the characters, not quite sure what's going on here. Okay, it's safe to say that this is the strangest roster of any Sonic game that has ever been released. One thing of note here, gameplay-wise though, is that if you play as any one of the unlockable characters, all of the CPUs you race against will also be unlockable characters, and it is effectively playing the game on hard mode. The robots know all of the dirtiest shortcuts, and they are generally faster and have better abilities than their non-robot counterparts. So winning against them can be difficult unless you employ some of their course-cutting tactics, like these absolutely broken shortcuts you're seeing right now. It is hard to overstate just how odd of a game this is, from the fever dream-inducing cast of characters to the elementary school playground-esque foot race game mechanics, to the absolute bops that make up the game's soundtrack. I think it's a game that is worth trying out, if not only to experience its many absurdities for yourself. Oh, and hey, you can play as Metal Sonic in this game, and who doesn't love Metal Sonic? Moving on to the last game that I'll briefly talk about in this collection, and that is Sonic the Fighters. Originally released in 1996, this game is unique in that its original release was as an arcade game, not a home console game. Yep, people had to walk into their local arcade with a pocket full of quarters to get a chance at duking it out with their favorite Sonic characters in this arcade fighter. Sonic Gems Collection is the first time you could play this game outside of an arcade, which is actually pretty cool. As for the game itself, if you've ever played any other arcade-style fighting game, you've probably played this game too. You pick your favorite character from the roster. There are some pretty unique ones here like Bean the Dynamite, Fang the Sniper, and Bark the Polar Bear. And then in classic arcade fighting game fashion, you battle up a ladder of foes in 3D boxing ring style fights. It really does not get any deeper than that, and that's fine, because that's just how arcade machines are. Battling up the ladder in solo mode and winning against all the playable characters earns you the right to face off against the final boss, the one and only Metal Sonic. And who doesn't love Metal Sonic? But let me tell you, this fight is no joke. The difficulty spikes significantly for this final battle, and it is downright infuriating. After climbing the ladder to get to this fight with no deaths against any of the other fighters, I probably lost this battle a good 25 times before I finally got lucky and pulled out a tight win. Back in the 90s, kids probably showed up to the arcades with their entire piggy banks in hand so they could afford to pay for enough continues just to beat Metal Sonic. Sega shamelessly used Metal Sonic to shack down the youth of all their savings. You know what? Metal Sonic. It's a